Hey guys, welcome back. This is Sith Lore. Today I wanted to talk about the Locust Swarm skill. This is a decently damaging AoE skill. It deals 360% weapon damage, which is a lot of weapon damage, but it's over 8 seconds. So it's a lot like the Haunt skill, where it's not a skill that you can necessarily cast and then forget about, because it's only 8 seconds, but at the same time, it's not one that you're going to be continually casting. It costs a lot of mana. It's 196 mana, and so honestly, it's one of those skills that I have difficulty recommending just due to the intense mana cost. I can only cast this 3 times. Can't even cast it 4 times without basically being out of mana. So let's take a look at it, and maybe you will find it more effective than I do. Alright, so here's a group of 3 enemies that are also hexed. And so yeah, that was great. Took 1 cast and was able to kill them. What you will see is that they were jumping from one enemy to another, and I believe there was 3 or 4 of them that got infected by that. So it does cover a fairly decent range. And it does do a decent amount of damage, especially when enemies are hexed. So it's not a bad skill, it's just I don't find it as effective as some other skills, especially something such as zombie bears, which is another mana intensive AoE skill. The advantage of this skill over zombie dogs is this skill will automatically seek out enemies, whereas of course zombie bears does not, which we will get to in a future video. This skill also allows me to run around and kite while the arcane beams are going, and I do not have to worry about losing any damage potential. So let's call up my dogs again. Go to town, and we'll switch turns. So the first rune, Pestilence, increases the number of enemies that it jumps to. And so this has a 100% chance that it's going to jump to at least 2 enemies. I don't find this overly effective because, as we saw from the first rune, it already jumps quite a bit. And so it's already going to affect usually 3 enemies. This just guarantees that if there's 3 enemies around, it's going to hit 3. So because there's so many monsters around, or enemies around right now, it is difficult to see exactly how many of them are being affected. It looks like about 4 of them were affected from that, so it may do a little bit more damage, but or cover more enemies, which therefore does a little bit more damage, but I don't think it's all that significant. So the next rune choice is Devouring Swarm. This one I do think is a great rune choice. For every enemy that is affected, you gain 37 mana. And so this stacks quite nicely as a result of being an AoE skill. So usually, as I indicated, the damage is 196. Well, in this case, you just saw that 3 enemies were hit. And so, with 3 enemies being hit, that gives back 111 mana, reducing the cost to only 80 something, 85. So as a result, I think for an 85 For 85 mana, this is an incredible skill, based on the amount of damage that it does over time. So I fully recommend this rune choice. So as you can see, I'm actually not running out of mana this time, whereas every other time that we've been playing and looking at this skill, I have quickly run out of mana as I've been showcasing the skill. Now I still have to be selective of when I use it, but overall, it's been quite effective. And so by just using the skill, I was able to kill all the enemies. So let's go to town and we'll take a look at the other runes. So the next one, Cloud of Insects, I'm not a big fan of this one either. This one increases the duration to 10 seconds. It's a little, the damage per second does stay the same. This is something that I have tested. We can take a look at it just to comfort you if you're not really sure, because it does not appear in the skill description that it does, because it's damage over time. But as you can see, no, you can't see. Looking at him, I'm doing between 48 and 58, 5,800 and 4,800 damage, and it lasts 10 seconds, so it's going to do more damage. That's taken away. Let me... Let's switch up the rune and go to Devoured Swarm. It's the same DPS, but as an enemy is killed, it leaves behind a cloud that deals an additional 75% weapon damage over 3 seconds. It's not much damage at all, considering the 360% damage that's already being done. I do not find this an effective skill. It's an additional 25% per second for 3 seconds, assuming the enemies are actually staying in the area. So, not a rune choice again that I recommend. So you can see from this that again they're doing about 48 or 5,800 damage, which is the exact same amount that we were doing using the last rune choice. Just the last rune choice lasted a little bit longer. So you could see that when some of the enemies died, the cloud stayed in place, but I didn't think that there was enough damage to even notice what was being done. The last one is Stirring Locusts, which increases the damage to 468%. So even when we're comparing this rune to the last one, well, the last one was 360 plus 75, so total damage of approximately 435, whereas this one is 468 to all enemies that are affected. So I consider this to be a much stronger rune. This is the best damaging rune, whereas I like the mana rune, of course, as a result of the reduced mana requirements. And we've got a nice double pack. So because of the fact that we're dealing with the double pack, I am going to pull up my Gargantuan. And use some additional skills. Although the Locust Swarm will be the primary skill that I'm using in order to damage the enemies.
Need more mana.
and now we're down to just a single enemy. So, again, now that we're down to one enemy, Locust Swarm isn't necessarily the best skill to be using because of the fact that it's an AoE skill, but we took them out. So anyways, guys, that was Locust Swarm. Thanks for watching. Any questions or comments, please leave them below. Thanks, guys.